Many people pray for a new season, but remain tied to what has already ended. The past can be a chain that holds you in a place where God no longer wants you to stay. When the Lord says He is doing a new thing, He means you must stop looking backward. The pain, the mistakes, the disappointments, and even the old victories cannot carry you into what He is about to do. Every blessing has its time, and when that time passes, holding on to it only creates delay. Some people hold on to memories that once gave them comfort, but now those same memories keep them from moving forward. Others hold on to guilt, believing that their past defines their worth. But grace rewrites your story. When you keep replaying old wounds, you give them power over your future. God wants to give you beauty for ashes, but if you refuse to release the ashes, you miss the beauty waiting ahead. Letting go does not mean forgetting everything. It means choosing to no longer let it control your emotions or decisions. Every tear, every failure, and every heartbreak can become a seed for something greater if you stop watering your pain and start trusting God's renewal. The past is not your enemy, but living in it is. The moment you release it, you make room for what is coming. Faith is not about looking back. It is about stepping forward, even when you do not see the whole path. When you release the past, you show that you trust the One who holds your tomorrow. Forgiving others is the second step toward unlocking your blessing. Many people pray for peace, but carry resentment in their hearts. You cannot hold both blessing and bitterness at the same time. Unforgiveness is like carrying a heavy stone. It does not hurt the person who wronged you. It only wears down your spirit. Some say they have forgiven, but still replay the offense in their minds, allowing anger to live in silence. True forgiveness is not pretending the pain never happened. It is choosing to hand the pain to God and refusing to let it poison your soul. When you forgive, you are not excusing what was done. You are freeing yourself from what was holding you captive. The Bible teaches that forgiveness is not optional if you want your prayers heard. When you stand before God with bitterness, your words rise but your heart remains closed. Forgiveness opens the flow of blessing, peace, and healing. It is not weakness. It is strength that comes from surrender. Every time you forgive, you take away the enemy's power over your emotions. Forgiveness may not change the other person, but it will always change you. It cleans the heart, softens the spirit, and restores your ability to love freely. The moment you let go of resentment, peace enters. God fills the empty space once occupied by pain with His presence, and your soul becomes light enough to receive new blessings, waiting to be poured into your life. Fear has the power to paralyze even the strongest believer. It whispers lies that make you doubt your purpose and your promise. Fear often disguises itself as wisdom, convincing you to play safe, when faith calls you to step out. Every great move of God begins when someone chooses faith over fear. Fear says, "What if I fail?" But faith says, "What if this is the moment God shows His glory?" Many people pray for blessings, but refuse to take the steps that lead to them, because fear keeps them frozen. Fear creates walls where God has opened doors. It focuses on what can go wrong instead of trusting the One who makes things right. When you allow fear to control your decisions, You live beneath your spiritual potential. The enemy uses fear to make you forget who you are and what God has already done. But fear is not your nature. Courage is. The spirit within you is one of power, love, and sound thinking. Every time fear rises, remind yourself that faith and fear cannot share the same space. You must decide which one will rule your heart. Faith may not always remove the storm, but it will carry you through it. Sometimes, the very thing you fear most is the bridge to your blessing. The moment you walk in faith, you prove that your trust is not in your circumstances, but in your Creator. When you replace fear with faith, peace returns, strength grows, and impossible doors begin to open. Fear loses its grip the moment you take your first step forward. Doubt is another silent thief of blessings. It begins with a small question and slowly grows until it builds a wall between you and what you have been praying for. Doubt makes you see problems bigger than promises. It tells you that your prayers are wasted and that nothing will change. But doubt is not truth. It is a shadow that hides the light of faith. Every time you doubt, you delay what could already be yours. Faith believes even when there is no visible sign of change. When you plant a seed, you do not see it grow immediately, but you still water it because you trust the process. The same is true with faith. God moves in ways unseen, and your belief keeps the process alive. When doubt enters, you are telling God that His promise might fail. But faith says His word never returns empty. Many people cancel their own blessings by speaking doubt after they have prayed in faith. They say they believe, but their heart questions if it will ever happen. You cannot walk forward while looking backward, and you cannot receive miracles while doubting their possibility. Faith is not a feeling. It is a decision to trust, even when everything seems quiet. When you remove doubt, you open divine doors that were waiting on your confidence, not your strength. God responds to faith, not hesitation. The moment you choose to believe fully, heaven aligns with your words, and what once seemed distant begins to take form before your eyes. Pride is one of the greatest barriers to receiving blessings. It blinds the heart and convinces a person that they can do everything on their own. Pride is subtle. It does not always shout. It often hides behind confidence and self-reliance. It makes you depend on your own strength instead of depending on divine grace. Many people fall into the trap of thinking they do not need help, that they can fix every problem by themselves. But pride always comes before a fall, because it separates you from the flow of grace. A humble heart attracts God's favor, because humility recognizes that without divine guidance, even the best plans can crumble. Pride says, I can handle it, but humility says, I cannot do this without your help. When a person chooses humility, they create room for divine intervention. Pride makes you believe you are the source of your success, but humility reminds you that every blessing is a gift, not a personal achievement. Some miss their breakthrough because they refuse to admit weakness, apologize, or change. Pride locks the door that humility can easily open. It resists correction, avoids surrender, and demands control. But blessings come to those who bow their hearts, not those who boast about their strength. When you choose to walk humbly, you invite peace, wisdom, and favor into your life. God lifts the humble in due time and restores what pride has broken. Every time you humble yourself, you align your heart with His will and open the path for new grace to flow freely. Distraction is another quiet enemy that keeps many believers from walking in their blessing. The world is full of noise, endless information, and constant movement. It is easy to lose focus when everything around you demands attention. Distraction does not always appear as something sinful. Sometimes it comes as something ordinary, but time-consuming. The enemy does not always need to destroy your faith. He just needs to keep you busy enough to ignore it. When your mind is scattered, your spirit cannot hear clearly. Prayer becomes rushed, reflection becomes rare, and peace becomes distant. Many people wonder why they feel far from God, yet their hearts are filled with the voices of the world. The more time you spend listening to the noise, the harder it becomes to recognize His whisper. Silence is not empty, it is full of answers. When you turn off distractions and sit in stillness, your heart becomes sensitive again. God speaks in quiet moments, not through constant motion. Focus is a form of faith. It says, I value what God is doing more than what the world is offering. Every time you turn your attention back to the Word and to prayer, you reclaim your spiritual clarity. Distraction divides the mind, but devotion unites it. If you want to experience breakthrough, you must learn to quiet the outside so you can hear the inside. Your blessing is not hidden, it is waiting behind your focus. When you center your thoughts on God, everything else falls into place, and peace returns like a steady river. Resentment is a heavy burden that keeps the heart trapped in the past. Many believers hold on to hurt thinking that by doing so they are protecting themselves from being hurt again. But in truth, they are only wounding themselves over and over. Resentment poisons peace and blinds the spirit to the blessings already near. When you carry resentment, you give power to the people and situations that once caused you pain. It becomes a chain that keeps you tied to yesterday when God wants to move you toward tomorrow. True freedom begins when you release that bitterness. You cannot pour new joy into a heart filled with old anger. When you forgive, you make space for peace to grow. Peace does not come from pretending the pain never happened. It comes from choosing to stop feeding it. Every time you replay the offense in your mind, you reopen the wound. When you let it go, healing begins. Resentment whispers that justice must come before peace. But in truth, peace is what allows justice to rest in God's hands. It takes faith to forgive and courage to stop fighting battles that only wear you down. When you release resentment, you regain your power. You become light enough to rise again. God replaces your bitterness with calm and fills your heart with quiet strength. The peace that comes after forgiveness is not weakness, it is victory. It is proof that you value your spiritual health more than your emotional revenge. Trusting divine timing is one of the greatest tests of faith. There are moments when you pray, work hard, and wait, yet nothing seems to happen. In those seasons, impatience tries to convince you that maybe God has forgotten you. But delay is not denial. Every promise has a season, and every blessing arrives when the heart is ready to carry it. Sometimes the waiting period is not about punishment, it is about preparation. When you rush what God is building, you end up with something fragile. But when you trust His timing, you receive something strong enough to last. Faith grows best in the soil of patience. The waiting season teaches you endurance, humility, and gratitude. It shapes your heart for the weight of the blessing that is coming. Many people lose their miracles, not because God said no, but because they gave up too soon. Trust means believing that even when nothing is moving, God is still working behind the scenes. The same power that set the stars in place is guiding the timing of your breakthrough. What seems late to you is perfect in His plan. Every closed door, every delay, and every silence carries purpose. When you trust the process, you gain peace even before the answer appears. You stop comparing your timeline to others and start focusing on what He is doing in your journey. When your faith rests in His timing, frustration fades, patience grows, and blessings begin to unfold right on schedule. Praying with a clean heart and pure motive is essential for any believer who truly desires to see transformation in life. Many people pray daily yet feel their prayers go unanswered because they do not examine the condition of their hearts. Prayer is not just about speaking words. It is about the spirit behind those words. When the heart is filled with pride, selfishness, or hidden resentment, the prayer becomes heavy and loses its power. A clean heart is one that comes before God with honesty, humility, and surrender. It does not try to impress or manipulate. It simply opens itself in truth. Pure motives are rooted in love and faith, not in personal gain or competition. When you pray with purity, your words rise freely and reach the heavens without obstacle. God looks beyond the voice and into the heart, and when He finds sincerity, He responds. Sometimes people pray for blessings, not because they want to serve better, but because they want to appear greater. But prayer is not about impressing others. It is about aligning your will with divine will. A clean heart does not hold grudges, does not wish harm, and does not complain about timing. It trusts completely and asks with humility. When you pray like this, peace fills your soul even before the answer comes. Prayer with pure motives brings clarity, guidance, and strength to endure whatever season you are in. It keeps your connection strong and your faith alive. When your heart is clean, even silence feels sacred because you know that every moment in prayer draws you closer to divine purpose. Focusing on the promise instead of the pain is the mindset that separates those who grow from those who give up. Life will always bring storms, losses, and challenges. Pain is real, but it was never meant to be permanent. When you keep your eyes on the pain, it expands. When you fix your eyes on the promise, hope rises. Pain wants you to believe that the story ends here, but the promise reminds you that this is only a chapter. Every trial is a test of focus. The enemy's greatest weapon is distraction through suffering. He wants you to dwell on what you lost, so you cannot see what is coming. The more you stare at the wound, the longer it takes to heal. But when you focus on the promise, you give power to faith instead of fear. The promise of God is not weakened by what you feel. It stands firm regardless of circumstances. When Joseph was betrayed, imprisoned, and forgotten, he kept his focus on the dream rather than the betrayal. When you learn to do the same, pain loses its control. Focusing on the promise does not deny the struggle. It declares that the struggle will not define you. The promise gives you endurance, vision, and strength to keep walking, even when the road is rough. Pain fades, but the promise remains. Those who hold on to what God said, rather than what they see, always reach their destination in perfect time. Gratitude is the language of faith and the doorway to more blessings. It transforms how you see life and how you respond to challenges. Many people focus so much on what they lack that they forget what they already have. Gratitude does not ignore problems, but it shifts your attention from worry to wonder. When you begin to thank God for what is already in your hands, you create space for new miracles to enter. A thankful heart is never empty. Even in seasons of struggle, there is always something to appreciate: life, breath, protection, lessons learned, and strength to endure. Gratitude turns ordinary moments into sacred experiences. It reminds you that every day is a gift, and every challenge carries a hidden blessing. When you remain thankful, peace grows, and bitterness cannot survive. Complaining drains your spirit, but gratitude refreshes it. Gratitude is not just an emotion. It is a decision to see goodness, even when things are not perfect. It is an act of trust that says, even if I do not see everything working yet, I know everything is working for my good. The more you thank God, the more aware you become of His presence in every part of your life. Gratitude multiplies blessings because it keeps your heart open and expectant. It builds faith and protects joy. When you live in gratitude, you begin to see small things as miracles, and you start attracting peace, favor, and divine opportunities that worry could never bring. Expectation is the engine of faith. To expect God to move is to live in hope and confidence that His promises will come to pass. Many believers pray, but few truly expect an answer. They speak words of faith, but secretly prepare for disappointment. Expectation is not arrogance. It is trust in divine faithfulness. It says, I know the blessing is on its way, even if I cannot see it yet. Expectation gives strength during waiting seasons and focus when distractions rise. It keeps you looking forward instead of backward. When you expect God to move, your attitude changes. You speak differently, walk differently, and think differently. You stop doubting and start preparing. The one who expects prepares the field before the rain comes. Expectation keeps your spirit alive when circumstances seem silent. It draws miracles toward you because it proves that you still believe. Many people cancel what was coming simply by giving up too soon. When you stop expecting, you stop receiving. But when you keep expecting even through trials, your faith becomes a magnet for blessing. Expectation invites divine timing to align with your obedience. Every act of faith, every prayer whispered in trust, builds the foundation for what you are waiting for. Live every day, as if your breakthrough could arrive at any moment. When your heart is grateful, and your spirit expects with confidence, nothing can block what has been prepared for you. Blessings come to those who not only believe, but also live as if the promise has already been fulfilled. Life is a journey shaped by choices of the heart. What you hold on to and what you let go of determines how far you can go. Every blessing waiting for you is connected to your willingness to release what no longer belongs in your spirit. When you let go of the past, forgiveness flows. When you walk in faith, fear loses its power. When you trust divine timing, peace replaces frustration. When you humble yourself, grace multiplies. And when you stay focused on the promise, pain loses its control. A clean heart and grateful spirit create the perfect soil for new blessings to grow. This journey is not about perfection, but about surrender. The moment you stop trying to carry everything alone and allow God to take His place in your life, everything begins to align. The things that once weighed you down become lessons that lift you higher. Your faith becomes stronger, your vision clearer, and your peace unshakable. Remember, blessings do not come to those who fight to control everything. They come to those who trust enough to let go. Release the bitterness, fear, pride, and doubt. Let your heart be still, your faith firm, and your expectation alive. What is ahead of you is far greater than what is behind. When you finally let go of everything blocking your blessing, you will see the hand of God move with power, grace, and perfect timing, turning every closed door into an open path filled with purpose and peace.